Thank you for giving us your time today as we explore possibilities for the future of Cherokee County. We want to thank our Cherokee County Council for funding this program, as they also feel that a good master plan is of vital importance to our future. Also, I want to thank our steering committee who have donated their time and efforts in developing some of the questions that you have today and will be guiding this process throughout its entirety. With that being said, I'm going to ask Karen Floyd of the Palladium Group, if she will, to begin the process of gathering data and getting your input in this important long-range plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. My name is Karen Floyd, and on behalf of the Palladium Group and the 2 decades of experience in working with counties across the Southeast, it really is our privilege to work with Cherokee County as you go through your visioning process. You're going to see on the left-hand side of the screen is almost a PowerPoint, and my head will be in the foremost corner, and you're also going to find on the right-hand side of your screen a survey. At some point, about 9 slides in, we'll go straight to the survey, and I'm going to ask as a favor that you not roll through the survey until we get through there. You'll be prompted with each question, and it's important that we follow so that you understand almost the tee up before we get to the actual question. I wanted to also share with you this idea that every voice can and should be heard that wishes to participate in this visioning process. And so along with that, I think it's important that we understand that this quote by Yogi Berra, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up somewhere else, is really important. And I have to commend both Steve Bratton, the county administrator, the county council, for the vision and the wisdom to understand that to really see our end point, we as a community, Cherokee County community, need to be mindful of what we can and cannot accomplish. And so the process really begins with this idea of what are we? What is a picture of the future that we actually can obtain? And then what's the value proposition? How do you actually get there? And to identify the leadership and thought leaders in particular in these very specific sectors that can bring their ideas to the table and to the forefront. And then finally, to ensure that the community as a whole has had input. What the report is not something to sit on the shelf and to go away. The report is an active, living, breathing document created by you, the community leaders of Cherokee County, and we're really serving as more or less a moderator. Next, it really is our privilege to be working with this amazing leadership team. And it really begins in these very specific sectors, but I think it's important to identify the breadth and reach of individuals serving as the foundational component of the steering committee. And it begins with Abby Sossaman, who's the associate publisher and news editor for Gaffney Ledger. Michael Bridges, who's the pastor of Concord Baptist Church. Jamie Vineset, who represents really large industry, serving as a comptroller for Freightliner. Will Cobb, who represents the Blacksburg area, who is a businessman, and Glenda Hartzog, who's a downtown business owner representing Gaffney and the Gaffney city itself. It's very important for you to understand the process on how we came about defining very specific sectors using that foundational group of individuals. And it began with an icebreaker. And then what we did, we had a series of brainstorming sessions, putting every idea, thought, visioning what Cherokee County could be, should be, and will be on a great big whiteboard, and then defining what was actually accomplishable. And we looked at tangible outcomes, what could have a beginning and what could have an end over the next 17 years, and also what was controlled within our county. So 2 examples that we used during the breakout sessions were, first of all, we don't want to have projects, so to speak, that don't have definite endings. So by way of example, curing cancer or eradicating racism or stopping poverty, those are incredible goals, but probably not within the confines of what Cherokee County can be, should be, and will be. And likewise, what's controlled within our county. So by way of example, Education. Education has its own board. It has its Department of Education across the state. It has its own superintendent. So again, those aren't things really within the purview and the control of the county. So based on those kind of very, very clearly identified goals, we then became focused on what we're going to call this thing. And we ended up with the name Cherokee 2037, A Clear Vision. Cherokee County 2037. So how did that come about when we're at 2020? Well, originally we were thinking about making a 15-year plan, but because in 1897 Cherokee County was actually formed by bits and pieces of Union, Cherokee, and Spartanburg coming together, we decided we would stick with the 37 increment at 140 years, and then in 2047 it would be a 150-year celebration. And also we wanted a clear vision, something that, a plan of action, a strategic plan that the community at large would be a participant of, understand, and direct in the years to come. So in keeping with that, every person that has any contact with this process, we're saying please go to aclearvision.org. And you're going to see there are 3 elements on aclearvision.org. First is the homepage, which gives you a timeline of when we're going to be unveiling this comprehensive strategic plan. And then next is a calendar of upcoming events that I'll be sharing with you in just a moment. And finally, comments. And each of those will play a role in how we can, again, capture all of the voices that wish to be heard. Now, we ended up through this very, very concentrated process coming up with 4 sectors. Economic development, which basically means how do we recruit business and industry to our community. Infrastructure, which is how do we have and advance connectivity, whether it's connectivity with water sewer, whether it's connectivity through broadband, how do we advance that in our community? And today we're talking about this idea of quality of life. How do we live well, and what do we do to be proud of our community? And the last is tourism, to attract visitors and grow economy. There are very specific, tangible projects that can actually run across these sectors. And I think the one that is the easiest to understand is Parks and Recreation. So Parks and Recreation can help recruit business and industry. It can advance connectivity, it can help you live well and be proud, and it can be a tourism attraction and help to grow the economy. We actually placed it in economic development for purposes of sectors, just so we would always have 3 or 4 very specific sections. And then quality of life is defined in a very specific way. And today we're excited to talk about quality of life, and as you can see, Will Cobb and Abby Sossman are leading as our steering committee and foundational members. But what you're also going to see is economic development, infrastructure, quality of life, and tourism. Each of them have a day. Each sector has a day, and this will go on for 4 weeks from September 14th through October 17th. And it's really important that we invite as many people as possible to jump on one of these informational sessions and surveys so that every voice can be heard. And you can see 9, 12, and 7 are the designated times for people that might have an opening at 9 in the morning, for individuals that could take the survey at lunch, and then for folks that can only do it in the evening. And today, of course, we're being led by Will Cobb and Abby Sossman on quality of life. Under quality of life, there are 3 specific tangible projects. The first is this idea of beautification. And beautification really means revitalization of neighborhoods and revitalization of areas that might be in disrepair. And next you have greenways, trailways, and waterways. These are all things that make you as a community proud to be a part of Cherokee County, and it's taking the natural resources that you have and really amplifying them. And I'm going to take you back to the 4 sectors we just looked at, and I'm going to implore you to please go to aclearvision.org and please give us any name of any person that's a thought leader that can really advance our efforts in giving Cherokee County a clear vision. Next is our chance to really get your input, and this is there are 2 things I'm going to ask that you look at. First, please stay on cue with the survey on the right of the screen. We'll be taking you through them, and so if you, when I direct you to go to a number, please stay on that and please do not skip ahead. And then at the very end of it, make sure that you hit the done button. If you don't hit the done button, you will have a survey that's incomplete, and we're hoping to get as many surveys as we possibly can so that we can have, again, a clear vision for Cherokee County for the next 17 years. So it begins with quality of life visioning. What's your name? If you can just type your name in quickly, that would be helpful. The second question is, what is your email? The third question is asking for your telephone number, because if you self-identify as participating in the public session at the end of this survey, we'll be trying to reach out to you. In light of COVID, I'm not sure if it will be a face-to-face or if it will again be digital, and it's really important that we get as much data as we can so we can have the leadership team pulled together at the very end of this project and process. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time I've asked you, but our goal again is to get as many voices as we possibly can. Who else needs to be involved? And if you can say which sector, and if not that, if there's an email that you might have or some identifiable descriptor so we can track them down. And remember, you can always go to aclearvision.org, and in the comment section you can add a contact. There's a section that allows you to add a contact and put a person's name in there and where they would best fit in the visioning process. Now the next question, number 5, gives us a sense of what you are most proud of. And it's important that you think through truly what in your mind's eye is what gives you the most hope and the most pride really for your community. Is it Revolutionary War sites in history? Is it your rural beauty and feel? Is it the high school football team? The county's potential, kind of a far-reaching vision? Is it Limestone University? The history of agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and textiles, kind of the more of the ergonomic, industrial pride. And if we haven't reached what you are most proud of, please submit your own. Now, question number 6 is beginning the visionary process, and it begins with what you think Cherokee County could be. I remember when BMW came to Spartanburg, how transformative it was because of all the sister and brother companies that came together to support it. So is it your wish that there is a new economy similar to BMW, the way it was transforming Spartanburg? Do you want a new economy through an industry or through a manufacturing company coming to Cherokee County? Do you want Cherokee County to be a tourism destination? Do you want it to be a place where people go because of the history, including the Revolutionary War sites? Do you want it to be an ecotourism with your greenways and waterways? Do you wish it could be a destination for parks and recreation? Do you want it to be a place with a reputation for being family friendly and having a great quality of life? Almost a bedroom community to some of your contiguous counties. And if we haven't identified, could you please submit your own now? The 7th question is, you've identified your vision for what you wish Cherokee County could be. I want to know now, what's the number one thing needed to realize it? What is the one thing that you've got to have, that you must have in order to accomplish your wish of whatever your vision is for Cherokee County? Is it a unified vision and leadership that's lacking? You need that before it's successful. Is it financial resources, public-private partnerships? And if it's none of the above, please submit your own. Now, this next question helps us a little bit identify, not just kind of through words what your core belief is, but perhaps for a tagline. So, how do you sum up your vision of Cherokee County? Honoring our history, forging our future. This idea that we're stronger together with Blacksburg, Gaffney, and Cherokee County. A place to call home, this idea of perhaps a bedroom community, this idea of familiarity. And finally, if it's none of the above, how would you sum up your vision of Cherokee County in just a few words? I'm going to give you a couple minutes for that. Now, I mentioned in the introduction that beautification is more than just landscaping. It can be a part of the idea of beautification, but a broken window leads to a broken window, leads to a broken window, and ultimately it can create this idea of blight. And as neighborhoods fall into disrepair, crime also rises, and a lot of the secondary problems tend to be created. So really, neighborhood revitalization is a big part of this idea of beautification. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to redevelop blighted areas to improve the overall quality of life in Cherokee County? And you're going to see there's a star not important to very important, so wherever you range in there, just place the star. If it's very important, you would be at the right-hand side. If it's not important, you'd be at the left-hand side. Now, this next is an open-ended question, and I'm going to give you again a couple of seconds to think through it, but I'm going to ask you what entities need to be involved in neighborhood revitalization areas, specifically for those that have fallen into disrepair. So who needs to be at the table to actually help revitalize the areas that have become blighted? And you have 3 different choices here. I guess we're in 3s because question number 11 is, what other beautification efforts should Cherokee County focus on? And here you're allowed to pick 3. Should we focus on gateways into the county and the individual communities? So the entry and the exit of Blacksburg, and the entry and exit of Gaffney City, and the entry and exit from the interstate to Cherokee County? Should it be more aggressive litter control? More aggressive code enforcement? New development? Recreation centers, build up basically, bricks and mortar. New development in the context of restaurants and hotels. More clearly defined walking and biking paths. Working with the city of Gaffney and the town of Blacksburg to identify and to beautify downtown areas. And then we're giving you an option to suggest your own. So you get 3 of your top picks for other beautification efforts that Cherokee County should really focus on. And again, we're trying to prioritize. There are so many areas, but what are the top 3? And if there's not one listed that you have that's better or equal to or needs to be added, please suggest your own. Question number 12. Cherokee County's greenways and waterways are its greatest untapped treasure. We heard that over and over in the discovery phase of our working with you all. So the question is, what outdoor amenities do you think are currently lacking in Cherokee County? And we're talking about greenways and waterways. And you can select all that apply. Is it kayak and canoe landings? A county-wide trail system that connects from existing trails, like the Over Mountain Victory Trail? More parks with hiking, biking, and camping options? And then we'd ask you to suggest your own. I'm going to give you a little bit of time on 13. I think that this is an open-ended question, but lots of opportunity. What is your vision for the best use of the Broad River? You have this amazing river. What is your vision for the best use of the Broad River? Question number 14. In our discovery phase, we learned factually that parks and recreation lie outside the jurisdiction of Cherokee County government. So the question is, should control of parks and rec shift to the county's control to better facilitate some of the quality of life improvements that you've identified above? Why or why not? Again, Parks and Recs is within a special purpose district. It's not within the confines and really the purview of county. And in light of these beautification efforts that have been identified, do you think that it would be better to be within the Cherokee County government confines? Why or why not? Question number 15. Do you know a government entity that has the capacity to complete these quality of life projects in terms of time, financial resources, and training? If so, who? Question number 16. Do you know of a private sector entity? So first was public or government. Second is private sector. This is business or industry that has the capacity to complete these quality of life projects that were identified in terms of time, financial resources, and training. If so, who? And the next one is similar, but we need to ask, what about a not-for-profit? Is there a not-for-profit entity that has the capacity to complete these quality of life projects? And again, in terms of time, financial resources, and training. If so, who? Now, question number 18 is a name. And this is a philanthropist. This is a person that has the means and the capacity to complete quality of life projects in terms of time, financial resources, and training. And it could be actually a company, but it needs to be a very specific name of a person that really has the resources to tackle these beautification projects or quality of life projects. Question number 19 will help us greatly as we build the logo and kind of the central theme for Cherokee County. So the question is, other than the peach, can you tell me what landmark you feel best represents Cherokee County? And if you're in Blacksburg or the city, that's obviously within the county. So if there's something that's indigenous that makes you think of a landmark that really represents kind of the flavor of who and what you are, if you could give us 3 landmarks, that would be very helpful and we'd appreciate it. So this is kind of an individual question. You've obviously been invited to participate and have your voice heard. Would you be interested in serving formally on the steering committee? And that would include being present at the unveil, potentially helping us with the public series section, depending on whether or not the pandemic is still in play. And if the answer is yes, please indicate so. No. And then if there are questions or conditions, please designate so at this point. And you might have an interest just in participating in the public forum. And if you do, if you could identify yes or no, that would be great. Question 22. Remember, our goal is to gather as many voices as possible to shape this plan. And in the 4 sectors, whether it's economic development, infrastructure, tourism, or quality of life, which is the purpose for which we are here today, could you give us a name? So by way of example, John Jones, he'd be great in economic development. Or Sally Sue, she'd be great in infrastructure. And if there's some type of identifying, if you have their cell phone by chance, or email, and I'm going to ask you, if you don't have those, and I certainly understand, feel free to go to aclearvision.org, and there's a contact portion of it, and you can upload any names, nominate any names, so that we can have as many voices as possible being heard. And finally, what question did we not ask that we should have asked? And if you can give us that question, that would be helpful. What questions did you feel that we should have asked that we didn't ask that would help us in this idea of quality of life with beautification, greenways, trailways, waterways, what you have in your community to help you be proud and help make you proud? And then when you're complete, hit done. If you don't hit done, this Survey Monkey will sit forever and ever, and we really want to thank you and tell you how much we appreciate you taking time to participate in this less than an hour long informational session and survey. Thank your county council, thank your county administrator, and of course the steering committee foundational members. And please help us grow this as best you can by giving us as many names so that Cherokee County has a clear vision. Thank you.